it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Zombie Outbreak, Los Angeles, by Augustus Cordoba. Part 1. The radio hissed, sharp static slashing through the fog in Officer Darrell Atkinson's skull. 16 hours deep into a shift that wasn't supposed to happen, and the city felt wrong. South Central Los Angeles was no walk in the park at the best of times, but this was some new level bad shit. He'd been doing this long enough, 10 brutal years on patrol, to know when something in the air had curdled. Tonight, the darkness between streetlights looked hungrier. Shadows stretched too long and too slow. Unit 522 respond to a domestic disturbance at 1442 Elm Street, the dispatcher barked. There was something in her voice he hadn't heard before. It was strained, taut like a wire about to snap. Female caller reports husband attempting to break down bathroom door, woman and child barricaded inside. Darrell keyed his mic. 522 responding. ETA 3 minutes. His grip tightened on the wheel. The bones in his fingers creaked. Lights on, no siren. Experience taught him when silence was the sharper weapon. The cruiser's clock blinked 11:32 p.m. Damn, he should have been home drinking cheap bourbon and passing out to reruns by now. But half the precinct had called out sick, and the rest looked like corpses, white-faced, dazed. Even Davis had puked in the bathroom earlier between calls. He said nothing, just wiped his mouth and stared at the floor like he was waiting for something worse. Every report tonight had bled weird. Fights, random assaults, behavior that didn't make sense. Witnesses described people moving wrong, talking in grunts, biting. One woman said her neighbor tried to eat her cat. The hospital had stopped answering their phones 2 hours ago. Darrell turned onto Elm Street. Identical little homes, trimmed hedges, kids' toys left in yards like someone hit pause on suburbia. 1438, 1440, 1442. The front door was wide open. Jagged wood splintered around the busted lock. Something black glistened on the white frame. Blood, most likely. A lot of it. Shit, Darrell breathed, yanking his flashlight from his belt. His fingers brushed his holstered Glock. Cold steel, comforting. Dispatch, 522 on the scene. Door's been forced, requesting backup. Only static answered him. He tried again. More static. The whole shift the radio had been stuttering like a dying thing. Another bad sign. Well, just one more, I suppose. The house loomed in front of him, still and silent, lit only by a single upstairs glow. He stepped forward. The porch light buzzed, sickly yellow color. Moths spattered themselves stupid against it. The air was dense, clinging, and metallic with blood. Police, he called, stepping inside. His voice fell flat, swallowed by the walls. A siren moaned far off, and then a sob. Small, close, then a child's whimper. Darrell drew his Glock, low, ready. Flashlight beam cut through the dark like a scalpel. The living room was a wreck. Table flipped, glass shattered. Family photos tossed like garbage. Frames cracked open like skulls. A massive TV torn from the wall. Bare wires hung like veins ripped out of flesh. Scuff marks gouged the wooden floor, heading toward the hall. Dark stains smeared along the same path. Blood. Too much of it. Police. Mrs. Cohen, are you here? Another sob, louder now, from upstairs. Then something or someone was slamming against a door, hard, repeatedly. No rhythm, just brute force and repetition. No human did that. Not like that. No, that was persistent, without thought, like a machine made of meat. His radio crackled again. A dying voice bled through the static. "Officer down it doesn't make sense. Oh, aim for the..." Then silence. The hallway stretched ahead, narrow and dark. Family portraits lined the walls, smiling faces frozen in happier times. Durrell moved forward, finger on the trigger. Every step felt like trespassing into something worse. Durrell's flashlight swept the wreckage of a once perfect life. Smiling faces frozen in time. A wedding day, a boy clutching a trophy, Christmas morning wrapped in lights and joy. Lies, all of it. Staged happiness. The pictures glared back at him now like ghosts. A drip. Something wet struck his shoulder, cold and viscous. He tilted the light upward. A dark stain spread across the ceiling, pulsing like a wound. It oozed, bled. Something above was leaking. Then, silence. The banging upstairs had stopped dead. In the stillness, Durrell heard the breathing. It was ragged, sloppy, wet as drowned lungs fighting to work. It was coming from the top of the stairs. "Mr. Cohen," Durrell called, his voice like steel. "This is Officer Atkinson. Let's talk." A sound answered. Not words, not language. Something between a growl and a death rattle. Primal, hungry. Then footsteps, heavy, dragging. A door creaked, and a woman's voice, hoarse and cracked with fear. "Please, help us. He's not himself. Oh God, there's so much blood." Durrell mounted the stairs, slow and deliberate, Glock drawn but low. The beam of his light cut through the dark like a scalpel. The steps were slick with blood, some old, some fresh enough to shine. Halfway up, his boot halted on something solid. He looked down. A tooth, adult molar, torn free, root and all, dark with gore. The breathing grew louder. Top landing. He turned the light on. Left. Bathroom door. Deep claw marks scored into the wood, jagged and raw. To the right. Movement. A figure stood at the end of the hall, unmoving, head low, shoulders caved, naked chest streaked with red. Durrell's voice was iron. "George Cohen, show me your hands." The head snapped up. Too fast, just wrong. The light caught George's face and Durrell's stomach twisted. The eyes were bloodshot, whites jaundiced and gone. Saliva mixed with blood dribbled from shredded lips. His teeth were splintered, and a chunk of his face was missing. But it wasn't the injuries that chilled Durrell. It was the emptiness. No pain, no rage, no soul. Just hunger. "Final warning, George. Hands where I can see them, on the ground." No answer, only that wet, stuttering breath. Like his lungs were learning to breathe all over again and failing. And then the radio screamed to life. "All units be advised. Multiple subjects, extreme aggression. Use caution. Deadly force." Cut off. Static. Then George lunged. Not ran, launched, like a corpse pulled forward on rotten strings. Legs bowed, jerking, but fast, so fast. His hands were out, bloodied, reaching for Durrell's throat. "Stop." Durrell stumbled back, heel slipping on blood. The stairwell yawned behind him. One wrong step and he'd fall. The flashlight went wild, beam cutting arcs through madness. George was closing the gap, and those teeth snapped, too close. Gun up, No time, inches from death. The shot exploded. George took it directly in the chest. Square, clean. Blood sprayed backward, but George didn't stop, didn't even flinch. Another round punched into him. George staggered, but didn't fall. Hands like claws tore at Darrell's vest. His eyes were so close now, void of humanity, his skin pale and grey. And on George's shoulder, bite. Angry, swollen, inhuman. Look, don't make me it. George lunged again, and Darrell fired. They hit the ground hard. Darrell's skull cracked against the wall, and his flashlight spun out of reach, throwing jagged, twitching shadows across the hallway. George collapsed on top of him now, all bone-snapping weight and animal fury, limbs thrashing like something broken and teeth gnashing inches from Darrell's throat. And his breath, jeez, it reeked, like something long dead left out in the sun. Darrell jammed his forearm under George's jaw, muscles burning as he shoved him up, trying to hold that snapping maw back. George's teeth clacked like castanets, flesh trailing from beneath them, raw and wet. God damn it, get the fuck off me. Darrell drove his knee into George's gut, once, twice. No reaction. Nothing human left behind those eyes. George just kept clawing, kept biting, some sick instinct driving him forward, immune to pain, immune to reason. The bathroom door behind them rattled violently. A woman's scream cut through the chaos. "George, stop! Please, baby, stop!" But that thing, whatever it wasn't George anymore. Darrell could feel it in the skin, too cold, too stiff, too wrong. Like the flesh was faking being alive. He wrenched his pistol up between them, pressed it hard under George's chin. George bit down on the slide, teeth grinding on metal. For a second, Darrell thought he might bite straight through it. "I'm sorry," Darrell whispered, and then pulled the trigger. The shot blew through George's jaw, burst out his cheek in a spray of blood, teeth, and bone. His body seized and then dropped like dead meat, pinning Darrell beneath the weight. The blood soaked in fast, warm and sticky, into his vest, his collar, onto his skin. Darrell lay there gasping. George's blood dripped onto his face now. Somewhere nearby, muffled sobbing leaked through the bathroom door. He tried to move, but his limbs were sluggish and stunned. The shot had gone wide, too far off center. A fuck-up, one that might matter later. He shoved George's corpse off with a grunt, slid against the wall, chest heaving. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, but he fumbled for the radio. "Dispatch. Shots fired. 1442 Elm. Suspect down, I repeat." Static. Sirens in the distance. Too many sirens. Then a voice, weak and breaking, drifted through the bathroom door. Is he dead? Please, my son, we're scared." Darrell stared at George's ruined face, at the gaping hole in his jaw, at the skin, grey and loose, and the swollen bite on his shoulder. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. "He's dead," Darrell said, forcing the words out. "But we need to get you out, now." As if on cue, a scream tore through the night outside, guttural, starving. Then another joined it, then another. The night was coming alive. Darrell tried to holster his gun, missed once, twice, and then finally got it. George's blood made the grip slick. The corpse sprawled like a broken puppet, a dark pool spreading underneath him. "Mrs. Cohen." Darrell's voice cracked, but he made it firm. "Stay in there. Don't open the door yet. Don't let the kid see this." "Okay," came the voice. "But please hurry. He's so scared." Darrell swept the flashlight over George's corpse again. The adrenaline hadn't faded yet, but his cop instincts were kicking back in. Blood wasn't right. It was too dark, almost black. And it moved wrong, thicker than blood, like oil. The bite wound had swollen grotesquely, black veins crawling out from it like roots. How long was George acting strange? Durrell asked. A pause. He came home early, said he felt sick. That was around noon. Her voice cracked. He had a fever. I tried to get him to go to the hospital, but he wouldn't. Then he started... Oh, God, he started... It's okay, Durrell said, voice tight. Take your time. Sheila's breath hitched. He started getting aggressive, confused. He couldn't talk right. Just those awful noises, deep, guttural, like something chewing through his throat. And her words broke apart into sobs. Then he went after Buddy, our dog. Well, she didn't have to finish that sentence. Durrell already knew. He killed him, she choked, ripped him apart with his bare hands. And that's when we ran upstairs. Jesus Christ, Durrell muttered, sweeping the flashlight down toward George's body, or what was left of it. His hands were a ruin, fingernails split and ragged, dried blood caked in the cracks, tufts of fur jammed beneath them. The fingers themselves bent like snapped twigs, some twisted the wrong way, shattered bones pushing up beneath skin. All the while, sirens wailed outside. But even they sounded wrong. Distant, then close, then gone. Somewhere else again. A pattern that didn't make sense. Oh, the screaming, though, that was getting closer. Durrell raised his radio. Dispatch, this is 522. Anyone copy? Only static. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course not. And a crashing sound came from downstairs. Glass shattered. Something big, something slow. What was that? Sheila whispered through the door. Stay quiet, Durrell barked. I'm checking it out. Gun up, flashlight leading. He started down the stairs. Blood on the wall. Some of it brand new. Another crash closer this time, and then the breathing. Wet. Rattling. The same sound George had made. But now there were more of them. Multiple sources all around. Oh, fuck this, Durrell hissed. We're leaving. He spun toward the bathroom, and then froze. George's body was gone. The blood stain remained, but the corpse had vanished. Part 2. No, that was impossible. Durrell had shot him in the head. Dead was dead. Movement. He turned. The flashlight beam caught him. George, standing at the end of the hall. Lurching upright, his body moving like it didn't remember how. The jaw still hung, shattered and crooked. A hole in his cheek leaked blood in slow pulses. Yet he stood, breathing and turning. Jesus, Durrell breathed. George's head snapped toward the sound. His face, what remained of it, twisted, not in pain, not in confusion, but hunger, animal, unnatural. His mouth gaped open wider than it should. His jaw stretched, cracked, unhinged. A low, sticky growl crawled up in his throat. Durrell raised the gun again. Stay down, George. Don't do this. But George didn't listen. He charged. Real fast this time, too fast. Like death had unchained him. Durrell fired, one round to the chest, but George didn't even flinch. Then another, a throat shot. Blood sprayed, but he still came, flailing arms, clawing hands, broken fingers reaching out. "Head!" Sheila screamed. "Hit the brain!" Darrell aimed and fired. The shot split George's forehead. The skull cracked. Grey matter burst out in a spray of blood. And then George dropped. And this time, he didn't get up. Darrell stood over the body, his chest heaving, gun trembling in his hand. He kept it trained on the corpse anyway. Couldn't trust it, not after what he'd seen. He'd been dead, then he hadn't. It was as simple as that. Well, downstairs, the noises were getting louder. Shuffling, dragging, wet animal sounds that tried to form words but never made it. Darrell backed to the bathroom door. "Mrs. Cohen, I need you to open up now." Soft click, and the door creaked open. Sheila stood in the doorway, early 30s, pale, eyes wide with terror. She clutched a little boy to her chest, Damien, maybe 6 or 7, face buried in his mother's shirt. "Oh, don't look, baby," she whispered. "Keep your eyes closed." Darrell gave them a once-over. No blood, no bites. For now, that was enough. "Right, we need to move," he said, voice low and grim. "Something's wrong, real wrong. The whole city's gone." Then a scream tore through the night, shrill, raw, and human. Then a wet choke, like someone drowning on their own blood. "Look, my car's out front," Darrell said, steadying his breathing. "We're going to walk there. Calm, quiet. Damien, can you be brave for me?" The boy gave a nod, his face buried in his mother's chest. "Good man." Darrell then turned to Sheila. "Listen, stay close. If anything happens, you run. Don't stop. Don't look back, just run. Got it?" "Yes," she whispered. But what's happening? What's wrong with everyone?" Darrell didn't answer at first. He was thinking of George. George with half his skull gone, still coming to him. The teeth, the black blood, the raw power behind those broken fingers. Every dumb zombie movie he'd ever laughed at as a kid, well, they didn't seem so funny now. "I don't know," he said finally, "but we've got to move." They crept toward the stairs. Darrell led with a flashlight and the gun, every step deliberate. Below, the sounds were louder now. Dragging feet, thick, sludgy breaths, things smashing into walls and furniture. Then his beam caught something. A woman staggered into view. Joggers torn, throat a shredded mess of meat. Her head snapped up at the light. Milky dead eyes, red-mouthed teeth, soaked in something fresh. "Back," Darrell hissed. "Back up, slowly." Her spine twisted backward with a crack, and her jaw dropped open wide, tendons flexing like wires. She let out a sound that didn't belong in any living thing, high and mournful, something out of a nightmare. Behind her, more of them. 3, maybe more, all twitching, convulsing, moving with the same broken rhythm, like puppets on a meat hook. "The bedroom," Sheila whispered. "There's a tree by the window. Damien used to climb it." Darrell nodded once. "Okay, go." They retreated, slow but sure. The infected things began climbing the stairs, joints popping as they bent in impossible ways. Flesh splitting, reforming, cracking, something driving them that didn't care about pain or damage. They reached the master bedroom. Darrell slammed the door and dragged a heavy dresser across it, muscles screaming. No lock, just wood and hope. The window was open, and curtains snapped in the night wind. The oak tree was close, thick limbs, enough to hold them. And a crash, and the door shuddered. Damn, they were here. "Damien, you first." Sheila helped her boy to the sill. He trembled but said nothing, eyes wide as he reached for the nearest branch. Darrell lit his path. The kid moved like a ghost in the dark. And another slam, and the door groaned. "Right, you next," Darrell barked. Sheila didn't hesitate. She climbed out, slower but sure, careful as the branch flexed under her. And then the door exploded. The dresser shattered, and they came through, mouths open, eyes wild. The jogger woman was first, then a man in a ripped business suit, blood crusted across his face. A teenager followed, stomach torn open wide, intestines half dragged behind him. Darrell fired. The jogger's head snapped back. She dropped, tangled in with the suited man, but the kid, well, he moved like lightning. He vaulted over them and hit Darrell square in the chest. They both went down hard, the gun jammed between them. The boy's breath hit Darrell's face, putrid, sweet like rot, and his teeth snapped, inches from Darrell's throat. Darrell slammed his knee up, trying to push him off, but the body was stiff, impossibly strong, locked tight with unnatural force. Something was in control, something that didn't understand being human anymore. More infected flooded in. Darrell could hear Sheila screaming from the tree. The teenager's teeth tore into his vest, trying to rip through. And Darrell knew if the kid reached skin, it was over. Darrell slammed his elbow into the thing's temple, once, twice, a third time. Bone cracked like dry timber, but the thing didn't stop, snarling, writhing, and relentless. His hand shot down to his ankle, fingers closing around cold steel. The snub-nosed .38 came free. He jammed it up under the infected teen's chin. The kid's head blew open like rotten fruit. Bone, brain, and blood sprayed across the floor. The body convulsed and then dropped limp. Darrell shoved it off and scrambled to his feet, his breath ragged. The businessman was already on him, mouth open, teeth shattered, hands clawing. Darrell didn't hesitate. One shot through the eye, another into the skull of the infected woman behind him. His revolver clicked then, empty. "Officer!" Sheila's voice tore through the chaos. "Please, come!" Darrell spun, saw the flood of infected spilling into the bedroom like a wave of rot. Their breath was a sick rhythm, wet and heaving. He dove for the open window, fingers catching the nearest branch just as clawed hands snapped at his legs. He didn't look back. Bark tore at his palms as he climbed down, the tree groaning under his weight. Above, the infected clustered at the window, faces lit in stark relief by the fallen flashlight. One dropped from the sill, hit the ground with a meaty thud. Another followed, then another. Well, they should have stayed down. They didn't. Bones cracked, joints popped, bodies twitched upright like marionettes yanked by some unseen hand. Darrell's boots hit the grass. Sheila and Damien were already sprinting toward his cruiser, light still strobing across the lawn. Shadows moved between houses, lurching, dragging, hunting. The air was thick with their noises, not speech, not human, just hunger. And a scream cut through it, a real one, human, but it ended too fast. "Get in," Darrell roared, sprinting to the driver's side. They slammed the doors shut just as the first infected slammed against the car. Bloodied hands smeared the windows. Darrell fumbled with the keys, slick with blood and sweat. The engine coughed, then caught. He dropped it into reverse. Tires squealed. The cruiser fishtailed across the lawn. Bodies hit the hood, bounced off the roof. He ran over at least two. In the mirror they twitched, and then stood back up. The radio hissed to life. "All units. Citywide emergency. Multiple casualties. No response from..." Static followed the rest. In the mirror, Sheila clutched Damien like she could shield him from the world, and her eyes met Darrell's. They were pale and terrified. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice like glass ready to shatter. Darrell stared past her, more infected moving between the houses, a tide of flesh and rage, blind to pain, deaf to reason. He gritted his teeth. "We survive," he said, and he floored the accelerator. The cruiser shot forward, engine screaming, and the night swallowed them. They tore past an abandoned Honda, its door hanging open, blood smeared thick across the glass. Darrell's hands shook on the wheel. George's blood was sticky on his skin, drying into a crust. "Dispatch, this is 522, he barked into the radio. "Multiple hostiles, extremely violent. We need backup, now." Only static answered at first, then fragments, broken voices, and panic. "Total chaos at Memorial. Behavioral changes within minutes. They're eating them." In the back seat, Damien whimpered. Sheila held him tighter. Her reflection was ghost white in the mirror. "Officer Atkinson, what's happening to everyone?" Darrell scanned the darkness. More shapes emerging, stumbling, twitching, moving like George had. A mechanical voice cut through the radio then, warped and half garbled. "This is not a test. The Office of Emergency Management has issued a city-wide alert. Unexplained outbreaks of savage violence have erupted across the whole area. Citizens are ordered to shelter in place. Do not approach, do not engage. Repeat, this is not a test." "Infected," Darrell muttered. The word tasted off, like something out of a bad horror flick. But he'd seen it, up close. The bites, the change, the unnatural power, the way they kept coming unless you took out the brain. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye, inside a house they'd passed. A family around a dinner table. Almost normal except for how they were hunched, feeding, tearing at something, someone. He floored the gas. "Where are we going?" Sheila asked. "Station," he said. "We get back up, gear up, and I get you somewhere safe." Even as he said it, he didn't believe it. The way the radio had gone dark, the way George had turned so fast after the bite. The station might already be gone. His phone buzzed, signal barely hanging on. A message from Martinez blinked through. "Don't come to station. Overrun." Chen bit, turned in minutes, heading to emergency rally point, high school. Meet there. "Right, change of plans," Darrell said. And that's when the front tire exploded. The cruiser shrieked sideways, metal screaming on pavement. Darrell fought the wheel, no use. The car spun once and smashed into a parked sedan. The impact slammed him forward, seatbelt snapping his breath in half. "Everyone okay?" he gasped. "Yeah," Sheila choked out. Damien was crying, but alive. Darrell's door was bent shut. Through the cracked windshield he saw it. The trap. A spike strip, makeshift. Rusted metal and shattered glass bolted to wood. Damn. An ambush. Too late. Flashlights cut through the night. Beams danced across the cruiser, pinning them in place. Voices rang out. Rough, but human. "Got another one. Check for supplies. Watch for biters." Darrell drew his sidearm. "Mrs. Cohen, stay low. These are not cops." Figures emerged from the shadows. Civilians armed with bats, pipes, and crowbars. Their faces were pale with desperation. One had a hunting rifle. "Out of the car," the rifleman barked. "Hands where we can see them." "Hey, we're police," Darrell shouted back. "I've got civilians with me." "Don't care. Outside now." Darrell glanced back. There were more of them, surrounding the cruiser. No way out. 8 of them, maybe more. Listen, Darrell tried again. We're not infected. We're just trying to... But a scream cut him off. One of the looters went down, throat ripped open by a sprinting infected. The thing tore into him like meat. Blood sprayed, screams followed. The infected lifted its head, mouth dripping, eyes dead. And the mob broke. Oh, fuck, kill it. Gunfire erupted, sloppy and panicked. The creature dropped, but more surged from the dark, drawn to the noise. The looters scattered, shooting wild, screaming into the chaos. Darrell kicked his door once, twice. It groaned, and then cracked open just enough. He shoved out. Back door, he barked, quick and quiet. Sheila pulled Damien free, clinging to him. The boy's wide eyes reflected the strobe of gunfire and emergency lights. Another infected burst from the dark, a woman in bloodied scrubs, and she charged. Darrell fired. Chest shot, useless. Second shot, right between the eyes. She dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. This way. He led them through a narrow alley, dark and tight. Behind them, the ambushers were dying fast. Screams rose, gunshots flared. The trap they'd set turned out to be their own execution ground. The alley closed in around them, tight, filthy, and thick with shadow. Dumpsters lined the walls like rusted tombstones, and garbage slicked the ground, every step a risk. Darrell's flashlight caught the gleam of fire escapes above, broken windows papered over with yesterday's news and desperation. And somewhere ahead, glass shattered. "Officer," Sheila whispered, "your arm." Darrell glanced down. His sleeve was ripped, blood blooming through the fabric. It must have happened in the crash. He hadn't felt a thing. "I'm fine," he said. "It's not a bite." Sheila wasn't looking at him anymore. Her eyes were locked behind him. Darrell turned. One of the looters had staggered into the mouth of the alley, fingers clutching at his neck. Blood ran thick between them, dark and heavy. His eyes found Darrell's, panic, pleading. "Help," he choked. And then he collapsed, hit the pavement hard. His body twitched, then thrashed. The sounds he made weren't human anymore. "Run," Darrell said, voice low and sharp. "Now." They ran. Behind them, the looters' death throes twisted into something wet and animal. Breathing, loud and ragged, not human, not anymore. Darrell's radio crackled then, one last gasp of authority through the static. "All emergency response units, be advised. City borders are sealed. Military checkpoint at Memorial Bridge. Fall back, repeat, fall back to Memorial Bridge. This is our last broadcast. God help us all." And then, silence. Static. Part 3. Darrell looked at Sheila and Damien, 2 civilians caught in hell. The kid's face was streaked with silent tears, but he wasn't making a sound. Smart. Sound brought them in. "What now?" Sheila asked. Darrell checked his Glock. 5 rounds. Maybe 20 more in the spare mag. Backup 38, empty. Behind them, the looter-turned creature dragged itself upright, twitching with hunger. Ahead, echoes of the infected bounced off brick and concrete. The city was bleeding out, dying in chunks, one bite at a time. "We survive," Darrell muttered, repeating what he'd said hours ago, though now it sounded dead. "We adapt, find their weakness. Then we get the hell out." The scream split the dark, joined by more, high, sharp, unnatural. The hunt had begun. Darrell slammed around into the chamber and moved. Point man again, leading them deeper into the dark, though alleys thick with shadow and blood. Every step took them further away from the world they'd known, closer to whatever this was becoming. The infection was spreading. The city was falling, and the night was just getting started. It led them through streets stripped of anything familiar. Fires bloomed in office towers, throwing jagged shadows across burned-out cars and shattered glass. Gunfire barked in the distance, and then silence. Screams that ended too fast. "Stay close," he whispered. They crept past an overturned delivery truck, its cargo doors hanging wide like a torn wound. Boxes of canned food spilled across the street, ripped, crushed. Inside the trailer, his light caught movement. Something squirming, crawling on twisted limbs. Wet breathing echoed from within. They moved faster. His arm throbbed with every heartbeat, blood soaking the bandage. Not deep, but enough. Enough to drip, enough to leave a trail. He'd seen what that did, how the infected smelled it. Their heads would snap toward it like wolves to fresh meat. Damien hadn't said a word since the alley. The boy walked like a ghost, one hand clinging to his mother, the other pressed tight over his ears. Smart kid. Yes, those sounds were worse than anything. The groans, the snarls, the clicking of the teeth. Then they turned onto Madison Avenue. Once the city's beating heart, now a graveyard. Abandoned cars line the street, doors ajar, lights flickering, and beyond them, the black void of a city devouring itself. Some engines still idled in the street, headlights cutting pale, useless beams through the thick smoke. Other cars sat dead, doors flung open wide, their interiors painted in blood. A city bus lay on its side like a gutted animal, windows shattered, silence heavy around it. "Look, the precinct's 10 blocks north," Darrell muttered, checking his Glock. 4 rounds left. 20 more in the spare mag. It wasn't enough, not even close. Then, movement. A figure stumbled out from behind a jackknifed semi, dragging a twisted leg behind it. Its head snapped toward them with that sick, unnatural twitch, the kind only the infected had. Darrell's flashlight caught the glint of a badge. Police uniform, still intact. But the throat wasn't. No, it had been torn straight through to the spine. "Back," Darrell whispered. "Quiet." They moved slowly, retreating. The infected officer's head tilted, curious like a dog scenting prey. Then more came. 3, then 5, shambling from behind the wreck, moving in eerie, perfect sync. Broken marionettes on invisible strings. "Right, other way," Darrell said. "Cut through it." An engine roared to life, and headlights exploded across the street. Darrell turned, blinded. A black SUV screamed toward them, swerving between burnt-out cars. "Get down," he barked, dragging Sheila and Damien behind a delivery van. The SUV plowed into the infected. Bodies flew, wet smacks against asphalt. It fished out but didn't stop, tires shrieking as it surged northwards. Oh, the things it hit? Oh, they got back up. Bones snapped back into place, heads jerked toward the retreating vehicle. They followed the sound, every single one of them, drawn like hounds on a scent. "Hey, they follow sound," Damien whispered, his first words in more than an hour. Darrell nodded. "That's right, buddy. We can use that." They moved south, hugging the walls, buried in shadows. Every few blocks they had to reroute. Streets blocked by wreckage, collapsed buildings, or swarms of the infected. The city's grid had gone, replaced by chaos and ruin. And an explosion lit the eastern sky. A chemical plant, maybe, or a gas main. Whatever it was, the blast wave shook the entire street. Car alarms screamed to life, hundreds of them, a chorus of electronic shrieks that drew monsters from every direction. "We need to get off the street," Darrell said. But before he could move, a body had slammed onto the hood of the car beside them. The infected man rolled off fast. His face was shredded, jaw dangling by strips of muscle, but his eyes, those stayed sharp, locked on. More poured from a shattered storefront behind him, glass crunching under their feet. "Run," Darrell barked, and they sprinted north. Footsteps echoed. So many. Infected surged from alleys and doorways, drawn to the sound. Each new arrival triggered the next, until the street behind them boiled with motion. A tide of rot and teeth. The horde was on its way. Up ahead, Darrell spotted a pharmacy. Security gate halfway down. This was a chance. "Right there," he pointed. Damien dove under first, small enough to roll through. Sheila followed, crawling on her stomach, elbow scraping. Darrell turned, raised the Glock and fired. 2 shots, both clean hits. One infected dropped, and another tripped over the body, tangling the horde up for a moment. He dove under the gate too. Fingers scraped his boots as he pulled through. The metal clanged behind him, then shook under the weight of impact. They're pushing through," Sheila shouted. "Help me." Darrell grabbed a display rack and rammed it against the gate. Sheila was already moving, dragging more shelves over. A vending machine toppled next, smashing to the floor. The gate bent inward under the force of the infected. Their faces were pressed through the bars, their teeth gnashing, eyes burning with fevered hunger. "Back of the store," Darrell barked. "Check for other exits." And then they froze. A new sound had joined the chaos. Low, guttural, coming from inside. The sharp, brutal crack of a high-powered rifle split the chaos, then again and again. The rhythm was methodical, deliberate. Through the twisted bars of their barricade, Darrell saw bodies dropping, one after another, infected skulls bursting like fruit under the precision of perfect headshots. "Sniper," he muttered. "Someone's still breathing up there." Then came a new sound, rotors chopping the air like blades. A helicopter surged into view above the crumbling skyline, its searchlight sweeping the ruin-strewn street below. The beam lit up the horde in all its diseased glory, skin sloughing off bone, eyes milky and hungry. A voice boomed from the chopper's speakers, flat and unmerciful. "Attention survivors, the city is lost. Military extraction points have been established at Memorial Bridge and Central Station. This is your final warning. Sanitization begins at dawn." Sanitized? Sheila's voice cracked. Darrell didn't blink. "They're going to burn it. Cleanse it with fire." The chopper banked left, veering out of sight, but not before its light swept across a rooftop. A lone figure crouched at the ledge, rifle braced tight to shoulder. It was a sniper, still watching, still protecting. Below, more infected swarmed the streets, pulled in by the birds' thunder. The sniper didn't stop. His rifle spat death over and over, each shot painting the concrete red. "Well, we can't get to the precinct," Darrell growled. "Bridge or station? Well, which one's closer?" Then a scream tore through the air, close this time, and glass shattered at the rear of the pharmacy. "We've got company," Darrell said, gun up. "Loading dock." Sheila clutched Damien to her chest. "What do we do?" Darrell checked his Glock again. 2 rounds now, 20 more in the spare. Definitely not enough. Not even close. Outside, the sniper's rhythm never faltered. Their unseen guardian was still buying them precious seconds. "Well, we're not dying here," Darrell said coldly. "They're fast but dumb, drawn by noise, by blood. Can't solve problems. Headshots drop 'em." Glass exploded in the back again, and wet, ragged breathing echoed down the aisles of ruined shelves. "Right, there's a service ladder in the alley. If we make the roof, we might reach the sniper. The bridge is 15 blocks. We move fast, we may live. The first infected appeared then. A former security guard, uniform hanging in ribbons, holster empty, eyes dead. His head twisted toward them, jaws gnashing mindlessly. "Right. Ready?" Darrell asked. Sheila nodded, clutching Damien. The boy's cheeks were streaked with dirt and tears, but his eyes burned with something close to courage. The infected charged. Darrell fired. One shot, clean hit to the temple. The body dropped mid-sprint. Then came the others, more shadows sliding between shelves, moaning and shrieking. "Right, go." They burst through the back, the pharmacy collapsing behind them in screams and glass. The loading dock fell, and the infected swarmed, unstoppable. But outside, the rifle fire still barked, clean, relentless, a lullaby of violence in a dying city. Behind them, everything burned, and the dead roamed like a sickness with legs. Somewhere in the east, the fire hadn't come yet. Maybe salvation was there, if they reached it, if they lived. The night wasn't done with them yet. Part 4. They ran until the fire station loomed ahead, black brick and silence beneath a blood-red sky. Darrell pressed to the corner of the delivery shop, scanned the road, then waved the others forward. They hadn't heard the sniper in 3 blocks, not since the pharmacy fell, and the silence felt like death. He led them toward the side of the station, toward a plain steel door tucked beside shattered entrances. His flashlight beam pierced the small window. No movement, just blackness beyond. "Good sign," he muttered. But even as he said it, the wind had shifted and brought the stench of rot. Then the handle turned too easily. "Wait," Darrell hissed. There was blood. Fresh. The stench of iron hit him hard. "Yeah, stay behind me." He pushed the door open with the barrel of his gun. Light swept forward, catching a hallway lined with busted gear lockers. Tactical vests torn open, helmets cracked. Blood smeared in erratic patterns. A single boot print, heavy and wet, trailed away into the shadows. They moved slow, every step a test of nerve. Oh, the place was too quiet, too wrong. The silence felt thick, like the building was holding its breath. Even their own exhales sounded like betrayal. The break room yawned open to their right. Darrell's beam cut through overturned chairs and a table crusted with something black. The sandwich sat abandoned on a paper plate, turned green with mold. A flickering TV buzzed above it, cycling silent emergency warnings. "Look," Damien whispered, pointing. Mounted near the ceiling was a first aid cabinet. Smart kid." Darrell climbed up, shattered the plastic with the butt of his flashlight, caught the door mid-fall. Inside there was gauze, antiseptic, trauma dressings. He stuffed everything he could into his jacket. "Officer Atkinson?" Sheila called, her voice trembling. "There's a radio." Comms room was tucked behind the break area, walls lined with dead tech and rusted equipment. But the main console still blinked, alive for now. Darrell spun the dial, careful with the volume. Hiss, crackle, and then... "Perimeter established. Firebombing begins at dawn. Multiple casualties at Memorial Bridge." Darrell went still. "Damn, Memorial Bridge is gone," he muttered. "Our best shot compromised." "Try the station," Sheila said. He twisted the dial again, more static, then nothing. A map on the wall caught his eye. Emergency grid. He traced it fast. Where they were, where they needed to be. Central Station, 20 blocks away. "Straight through the red zones," he whispered. "It's suicide." Then a crashing sound answered him. Something deeper inside the station moved, metal scraping on concrete. Darrell killed the radio. The darkness swallowed him. He clicked off his flashlight. Wet breathing seeped into the silence. "Right, storage room, now," Darrell murmured. They backed into a side bay, and the door closed almost all the way. Through the gap, Darrell saw a shape lurch into view. It was broad, slow, hulking. His hand found something mounted on the wall. Cold steel. An axe. He gripped it. The infected firefighter dragged itself across the floor, still in full turnout gear. His movements were jerky and distorted, head hanging sideways like it was broken. Helmet split, grey skin slick beneath. Another figure joined it. Faster this one, and twitchier. Same gear, same dead eyes. Both stopped and sniffed the air. They smelled blood. Darrell's blood. "Get back," he breathed. "We need..." Damien had stumbled, and a wrench fell to the ground with a clatter. Both infected turned. Then the door burst apart. 500 pounds of dead weight smashed into the room. Darrell shoved Sheila and Damien behind him, raising the axe just in time. The first one's helmet flew off, revealing a face torn in half by something long forgotten. It snarled, perpetually locked in rage. Darrell's swing caught it in the throat. The blade sank deep, but barely slowed it down. Clawed hands gripped his shoulders, pulling him into snapping teeth. Then the second firefighter flanked, moving fast. "Run!" Darrell roared, grappling the axe free. "Loading bay, now!" Sheila grabbed Damien and bolted, and the second infected turned to pursue them. Darrell kicked over a shelf, sending tools crashing into its path. But the first one wasn't done. No, not by a long shot. Equipment crashed down, snarling into the infected's gear as it lunged. Darrell was driven hard against the wall. Up close, the stench was overwhelming, rot, copper, and something worse like meat left to fester in the dark. His breath hit his face like poison, and the jaws clicked with mindless hunger, teeth slamming just inches away. Only the axe wedged between them kept his face from being torn off. Darrell roared, slamming his boot into its knee. Something cracked, but the thing didn't stop. It just surged harder. Then the axe slipped, and teeth snapped where his throat had just been. He twisted away, and the creature's face smashed into the wall, spider-webbing the concrete. In a single desperate arc, Darrell tore the axe free and buried it into the infected skull. The edge cleaved bone and split brain. Grey matter sprayed the wall. The body dropped, twitching once, and then nothing. And the second one came, free of the debris now, so fast, so big, and it barreled towards him. Darrell yanked at the axe. It was stuck. No time. He pulled his sidearm and fired. One last round. The bullet punctured into its face, tearing through skin and muscle but missing the brain. It was still coming. Darrell dove aside as it tore through the shelving like it was made of straw. Steel and gear collapsed on top of it, buying him precious seconds. He scrambled to his feet, leaving the axe behind. Just 20 rounds in his spare mag, each one a screaming beacon for more infected. "Officer Atkinson!" Sheila's voice was distant, all the way from the loading bay. Darrell sprinted, slammed the door behind him. The metal groaned. The infected was already back on its feet, hurling the collapsed shelves off with raw, monstrous strength. Well, the loading bay looked like a war zone. Crashed vehicles, shattered lights, and a fire engine overturned like a toy. Sheila and Damien waved frantically by the half-open door, and Darrell ran to them. Behind him, the storage room door exploded outward, and the infected came through, armor shredded, face twisted, those milky eyes locking onto them with primal intent. "Quick, under!" Darrell barked, shoving Damien through the gap under the door, and then Sheila. He dropped and rolled through last as thunderous footsteps chased them out into the station's rear lot. The sky was orange now, sick and burning with the reflection of the city in flames. "There," Sheila pointed, an emergency vehicle still intact, keys dangling from the ignition. They bolted. The truck's fire door flung open and they piled in. Darrell twisted the key and the engine growled to life. But too late. The infected was on them, slamming against the truck, crawling onto the hood. Darrell shifted into reverse and slammed the bumper into the creature. It held on, climbing up. He hit the brakes hard, and the thing flew forward, smashing onto the pavement. And of course, it started getting up. Darrell threw it into drive and floored it. The truck rammed the creature against the wall, sickening impact. Still, it moved again and again. Metal shrieked, bones popped, until finally the skull gave way and the body slumped. Silence. Just there breathing, and the engine idling like a heartbeat. "Hey, you two okay?" Darrell asked. Sheila nodded, but Damien didn't speak. He held on tight and didn't cry. Darrell checked his watch. Less than 2 hours until dawn, till the military wiped this place off the map. The truck's radio crackled then, and a new broadcast looped. "Attention survivors. Memorial Bridge extraction is lost. Repeat, Memorial Bridge has fallen. All remaining civilians divert to Central Station. Military transports depart on the hour. This is your last warning. The city burns at dawn." Darrell stared at the map on the dashboard. Damn, Central Station was still 20 blocks through hell. But they had wheels, and a weapon, and a way out. "We're not dying here," he said, and this time he felt like he meant it. He slammed the spare mag into the Glock, 20 rounds. The axe rested on the seat beside him, scrubbed clean, the edge glinting under the cab lights. In the back they'd found a stash of bandages, flares, and a couple of dusty MREs. The burning city sprawled before them like a shattered graveyard, smoke and rot, ash and screams. But for the first time since this nightmare had begun, Darrell felt a flicker of something close to hope. "Ready?" he asked. Sheila gave him a hard nod. Even Damien, trembling in the back seat, managed a weak one. Darrell dropped the truck into gear. Somewhere ahead, past alleys choked with corpses and streets ruled by monsters, salvation might just be waiting. They had to bleed their way to it, though. The emergency truck growled through the dark like a beast set loose. Every intersection was a snarl of dead vehicles and twisted metal. The bull bar shoved the worst aside, but they were reduced to a crawl. Too slow. Dawn was closing in. "Please," a voice cut through the black, roaring close. "Help us." Darrell's hands tightened on the wheel. He'd driven past dozens already. Faces in windows, shadows screaming for mercy. Well, they could not save everyone. Stop and you risked it all. But this voice, it wasn't fading into the background. No, it dug in. A figure stumbled into the headlights. Young, bloody, limping, early 20s maybe. Torn clothes, eyes wide with desperate hope. He waved both arms like a drowning man. "Officer," Sheila murmured, "we can't just—" "Yeah, I know." Darrell braked hard. The guy's face lit up as the truck ground to a halt. Darrell grabbed the axe just in case. "Right, stay in the truck. Keep it running. If it gets bad, go." He stepped out. The young man stopped 10 feet out, hands raised high. "Thank God," he said, voice hoarse. I thought I was the only one left." "You're hurt." "Oh, not a bit," the guy said quickly, shaking his head. "Crash. My dad, he got bit. Started changing. I had to run." "What's your name?" "Tyler. Please, there's others trapped in the car a block back. I was trying to find help." Gunfire cracked in the distance, and screams curled between buildings. "Show me," Darrell said. "Quick, quiet." They moved fast down a ruined side street. A sedan lay upside down, its roof flattened like a crushed tin can. Shattered glass glittered across the road. Inside, hands beat against fogged windows. "Hey!" A woman's voice, it was, muffled but alive. Darrell swept the area with his light. No infected here, not yet. "Stand back," he barked, swinging the axe. Glass exploded. A woman and a boy crawled free, coughing and wide-eyed. "Thank you," the woman gasped. "I'm Sarah, and this is Kevin. We've been trapped for hours." "We're heading to Central Station," Darrell said. "Military evac. Come with us." There was a loud metallic crash, loud and close, that cut him off, and they all turned. Something moved fast from behind a dumpster. Low to the ground, limbs spidered wide, mouth hanging loose, swinging like a shattered hinge, and it screeched. Darrell raised the axe, but it was too fast. The thing slammed into Tyler, teeth first, driving him down, and his scream ripped the night apart. While Darrell brought the axe down, deep into the thing's skull, it twitched once, went still, but the blade stuck. Tyler writhed, clutching his shoulder, blood flooding through his fingers. "Oh, God!" he gasped. "Oh, God, no!" "How long?" Darrell asked, wrenching at the axe. "How long since your father turned?" Ty's face went pale. 20, maybe 30 minutes. He changed fast, real fast." Sarah pulled Kevin back, her eyes wide with panic. He's turning. We need to go." Ty jerked. His back arched, bones cracked like branches. His neck stretched too far, tendons bulging under the skin. It had already begun. The wound in Tyler's shoulder had already blackened, dark veins spiderwebbing under the skin like cracks in dead earth. Darrell saw it and didn't wait. "Run." They bolted, boots slamming against concrete, breath ragged. Behind them came that sound again, the wet guttural rasp of a thing that used to be human. Darrell glanced back. Tyler was already on his feet. His body jerked in stiff, unnatural spasms, his head twisted like a predator locking onto prey, eyes dead, lips peeled back. He was coming. A screech of tires tore through the street. A sedan exploded from a side road, nearly plowing into them. It fishtailed, then vanished into the smoke. Never even slowed down. Well, more infected heard it. They poured from broken buildings and alley shadows, sniffing the air like wolves. Some turned toward the fleeing car, but others caught the scent of living blood. Darrell's blood. "There." Darrell pointed at a boarded-up convenience store. The windows were sealed with plywood and the door chained shut. No time for finesse. Darrell raised his Glock and fired. The chain snapped, clattering to the ground. "Right, in, now." They shoved through the door, and Darrell slammed it shut behind them, looping the chain from inside, just in time. Thuds hit the door, bodies heavy, angry, and hungry. "Here, help me," Darrell barked. Sarah and Kevin helped drag metal shelves across the entrance. Each impact made the wall tremble. Plywood held, but wouldn't forever. Darrell swept his flashlight across the interior. Empty shelves, ransacked coolers, trash and glass. A few supplies might still be in the back. Maybe. A scream snapped him around. The ceiling tiles had split, and an infected dropped straight onto Sarah, teeth gnashing, claws raking. She fought back, blood on her hands, her eyes wild. Darrell's shot cracked the air, and the creature dropped, twitching. The echo inside the store was thunder. But outside, the pounding grew louder. "Yeah, you good?" he asked. Sarah nodded, pale and shaking. Then above them, the ceiling creaked again, and loose tiles trembled. "They're in the crawl space," Kevin whispered. Then a blast of metal and shattering glass stopped them cold. Part 5. The car had crashed through the storefront. The wall had caved and racks tumbled. Screams followed. Infected surged through the breach, a flood of limbs and rot. "Back door, now." He fired into the crowd, headshots tight and clean, but there were just too many. They backed into the stockroom, cornered. The exit was blocked by a dumpster. Darrell and Kevin threw themselves at it, while Sarah watched the door, hands shaking, holding a wrench. Metal shrieked. The dumpster groaned, and it shifted just enough. "Okay, go." Kevin squeezed through, and Sarah followed. Then a hand seized Darrell's leg, fingers like iron. He kicked, felt teeth skim his boot, but he broke free. Darrell reached for his last flare, struck it, and tossed it through the door. The magnesium burst ignited a puddle of spilled chemicals. Fire swallowed the stockroom. The infected screamed but kept coming, faces blistering, still crawling forward, while they ran. Behind them, the store became an inferno. Inside, the things burned but still clawed toward the light. Right, we're almost. Darrell choked, skidding to a stop. The emergency truck was under siege. Dozens of infected had surrounded it, fists pounding the armored glass. Inside, Sheila and Damien crouched, wide-eyed, waiting for the cracks to split open. Darrell cursed under his breath. New plan. He checked his ammo, 12 rounds now. Nearby, an abandoned police bike leaned against a lamppost, engine still hot. Past it, the road opened toward Central Station. They could hear train horns wailing through the city. The evacuation was still moving. "Sheila!" Darrell yelled. The infected turned at the sound of his voice. "On my signal, drive. Straight to the station. We'll catch up." He fired 3 quick shots, clearing the driver's side door. Sheila heard, and the truck's engine howled. Then she floored it. Metal crushed bone. The beast was moving again. The vehicle vanished into the black, horns screaming into the night, luring the swarm away from Darrell's group. "Right, that's our cue," he growled to Sarah and Kevin. "Run." The motorcycle fired up on the first try, its rumble cutting through the chaos. Kevin jumped on behind Darrell, while Sarah climbed into a rusty grocery cart rigged like a chariot of desperation. She grabbed the sides with white-knuckled fury. "Right, hold on tight." Darrell popped the clutch, and the cart shrieked as the bike dragged it down the corpse-strewn street. Behind them, the infected spilled from the burning wreck of the store, howling and blistered, drawn to the roar of the engine. They tore through the streets, soaked in death, the cart bouncing hard over glass, limbs, and shattered stone. Every turn brought fresh hell, infected leaping from wrecked cars, bursting out of shadowed doorways, hands twisted and reaching. Darrell fired until the Glock clicked dry, and after that he used the bike itself, turning it into a blunt instrument of survival. Crushed bodies sent them spinning, flesh and bone thudding under the tires. And then he saw it. Central Station. A battered old fortress of red brick and steel, ringed with tanks and razor wire. Searchlights sliced the dark. Muzzle flashes blinked like lightning. They were close. Then, impact. Something slammed into the cart, an infected, screeching and gnashing. Sarah screamed as it lunged at her, teeth snapping for her face. She fought back, shoving it down, and the wheels crushed its skull. But more came, a pack of them, fast and hungry. Darrell gunned the engine, the frame vibrating like a live wire beneath them. And Kevin pointed. "The truck! They're at the line!" Soldiers pulled Sheila and Damien through a breach in the barricade, and Darrell aimed straight for it. Oh, the swarm surged. Darrell didn't blink. The cart hit something hard, and Sarah almost fell out. "Jump!" he shouted. Sarah dove. Gunfire thundered from the barricade as soldiers opened up. Precise bursts dropping the charging infected. Kevin leapt free. Darrell slid the bike sideways, laying it down and skidding under the reaching claws. They had made it. Darrell rose to his feet, muscles screaming. Sheila ran to him, Damien stumbling behind. They were alive, bleeding and shaking, but alive. Inside the barricade, a soldier barked orders. "Train leaves in 10. City burns at dawn." They staggered through steel gates as the sky began to lighten, and behind them the horde still came, relentless and rabid. But not yet, not this time. They had survived. Central Station's Grand Hall had become a triage zone. Marble floors, once echoing with hurried commuters, now groaned beneath the wounded. Cots filled every corner. Blood stained the grouts. Medics moved like ghosts, checking vitals, injecting morphine, and quickly watching for the telltale signs. "Over here," someone called. Officer Murphy leaned against a pillar, uniform soaked with blood. A medic wrapped his mangled arm. "Jesus, Durrell," he croaked. "You made it." Durrell guided Sheila and Damien to rest and then gripped Murphy's hand. "Damn, thought you were at Memorial Bridge." "Was," Murphy muttered, and he winced as the bandage tightened. "Place got hit hard, half the department gone. Bitten, dead, or worse." He looked away then. Chan didn't make it. Changed right there on the bridge. Fastest I've seen. It's mutating, man. Getting meaner. A scream tore across the hall, and everyone froze. A man writhed on the floor, limbs seizing, foam bubbling at his mouth. Durrell's eyes locked on the jagged bite on his wrist, already black, already crawling. "Hey, get him out!" someone yelled. Soldiers rushed in, dragging the convulsing body toward the doors. His spine then snapped backward, and his jaw cracked wide open, impossibly wide. Well, they got him out, just in time. Murphy exhaled, his voice low. "They're not taking chances anymore. One sign, just one, and you're out." He looked up at Durrell, his eyes haunted. "Can't let it spread. Not in here." In the evacuation zone, Durrell stood motionless, eyes scanning the chaos as medics in hazmat suits examined Sarah and Kevin under flickering floodlights. Kevin stared at the floor, jaw tight, mind somewhere deep in the carnage they clawed their way through. Sarah held his hand, whispering words too soft to matter in this place of blood and ash. The whole station echoed with agony. Cries of the wounded, the hollow sobs of lost children, the crackle of gunfire from just beyond the walls. Through the tall, soot-smeared windows, Durrell watched the city burn. Fires danced across rooftops like funeral pyres. Dawn was near, but when the sun rose, those fires would seem like matchsticks next to the inferno still to come. "Officer Atkinson?" A small voice cut through the noise. "Damien." Durrell turned. The boy pointed to a crowd near the entrance where a new wave of survivors was being corralled and screened. I think I know him." Durrell followed the boy's gaze. A man in a shredded suit was shouting at the soldiers. "Please, my wife and my daughter, they're still out there. I have to go back." "Negative, sir," one soldier snapped. "No one leaves the secure zone." "That's Mr. Peterson," Damien whispered. "From my school. He's the principal." Peterson shoved forward. The soldiers grabbed him and held him down as he broke, sobbing like a man who'd just buried hope in the dark. Durrell knew that look. He'd seen it on a dozen faces tonight. People who'd left someone behind. A man in a captain's uniform strode toward Durrell's group. "Officer Atkinson," he said. "Got your radio call. We need a debrief now." Durrell nodded toward Sheila. "Stay with Murphy. Watch the kid." He followed the captain past lines of stretchers and exhausted medics into a makeshift command post near the old ticket counter. Tactical maps lined the walls, most zones soaked in red, marked for containment or already lost. "Your report lines up with the others," the captain said, eyes scanning a tablet. "Widespread infection. Faster changes now. Headshots only. Body shots are a waste." "And, they hunt sound," Durrell added. "Moving packs. Too strong for what they are. And they can smell blood." The captain gave him a grim nod. Yeah, we've seen coordinated movement. Not random, no, calculated like wolves. Gunfire cracked outside, closer now, sharper. A soldier burst in, breath ragged. South barricades breached. Automatic fire erupted, rattling through the station walls. The captain grabbed his radio. Status. Multiple infected. The reply came through a hail of bullets. They're using the dead as cover, climbing over the bodies. Durrell moved to the window. What he saw froze his blood. The infected were crawling over the barricades, not just pushing, but forming a wall of flesh. Dead limbs and twitching bodies stacked like chairs. A grotesque pyramid of rotten bone clawing toward the station. They're evolving, the captain whispered. Learning. Then an explosion ripped through the air and the building shuddered. Lights flickered. All units fall back to secondary positions, the captain barked. Begin evacuation. I repeat, begin evacuation now. Chaos detonated into the grand hall. Soldiers herded civilians toward the platforms, shouting orders over the rising panic. Medics grabbed what supplies they could carry, abandoning triage zones soaked in blood. Durrell sprinted back to his group. Murphy was already on his feet, arm in a sling, helping Sheila guide Damien. Right, train's this way, Durrell barked. Move. They joined the stampede of the desperate, pushing toward the tracks. Out of the windows, the nightmare unfolded, waves of infected pouring over the walls like floodwater, endless and ravenous. The station was no longer a stronghold. It was the last stand. The defensive lines were breaking. Screams echoed through the station as the iron gates groaned, lowering to seal off the platforms from the chaos behind. Durrell and his group ducked under just in time. Gunfire and dying cries followed them like ghosts. 3 military transport trains waited on the tracks, engines growling, exhaust hissing in the cold morning air. Soldiers barked orders, pushing civilians into passenger cars, while others took up firing positions behind sandbags and mounted guns. Right, this one. Durrell herded his group into a car already heavy with silence and fear. Faces pale, eyes vacant. No one spoke. Sheila, Damien, Murphy, Sarah, Kevin, all accounted for. A soldier appeared in the doorway, rifle in hand, eyes dead from too much death. Anyone bitten, show your wounds now. Hands lifted, cuts, scrapes, and blood. Durrell's mind flashed to Ty. How fast it had taken him, how fast it always took them. Any one of these poor bastards could already be turning, just didn't know it yet. Behind them, the gate shuddered under a massive impact. Something was trying to break through. We need to go, now, the conductor shouted. The brakes hissed and the train began to crawl forward. Durrell turned to the windows. That's when he saw the flood. The infected burst through shattered doors and windows, spilling into the station like a tidal wave of flesh and fury. And then came something worse. Oh, God, Murphy whispered. Captain Chan was one of them. Well, what was left of him. He smashed through a barricade like it was cardboard, his body warped by the infection, muscles distended, skin stretched grey and veined with black rot. His bulk was obscene, but it moved with speed that didn't match its size. Behind him the others followed, his pack. Chan had been a monster in the gym. Now he was something far beyond human, a grotesque alpha specimen. He drove his fist through a steel support beam like it was wet paper. Take him down, someone screamed. Too late. Chen grabbed a soldier and ripped him in half. The scream barely started before it was swallowed by blood. The others in his pack went into a frenzy, howling and charging forward with madness in their eyes. The train had started to pick up speed. Durrell watched from the window as Chen turned his head, slow and deliberate, toward the sound of the departing engines. Even from here, Durrell could see it. Those eyes, white and cloudy but aware. Thinking. Damn, they are learning, Darrell muttered. God help us, they're learning. Don't look, he said to Damien. The boy buried his face in Sarah's chest, and she held him tight. Dawn broke over the city just as the station disappeared behind them, swallowed in smoke and shadow, and then the earth shook. Behind them, mushroom clouds rose like death's own fists. The military had activated the sanitization protocol. Street by street, block by block, the city was being burned to the ground. But it was already too late. Darrell scanned the car, saw them all. The woman clutching a teddy bear soaked in blood, the old man with trembling hands wrapped in gauze, the teenage girl who hadn't blinked once. Any one of them could be the next to turn. What do we do now? Sheila asked quietly. Darrell checked his sidearm. Empty. His axe long gone. But he kept his hand on the holster anyway. We survive, he said. We watch and we stay ready. She glanced out of the window. Trains were merging from other lines, all of them heading north, toward the so-called safe zones. But Darrell didn't believe in safe anymore. Not after what he'd seen, not after what they'd become. Together, he said. Whatever's coming, we all face it together. The train thundered through the smoking ruins of suburbia. The city behind them burned, consumed by fire and ash. The night was over, but the horror had only shifted form because somewhere on that train, someone was already infected, already turning. Darrell sat back, pulling Sheila and Damien close, eyes locked on the others, tired but watchful. They survived the night. Now they had to survive what came next. The infection wasn't done. It was evolving, thinking, hunting. And daylight brought no salvation, only a different kind of darkness. Well, my dear friends, I've got to say I'm absolutely exhausted after reading that one. God, that was unrelenting, wasn't it? Pace never dropped. I read that all in one go, so as usual, my brain is not working so well after all of that, so excuse me if this little end blurb is not as coherent as it normally is. And it's never very coherent anyway, is it? To be honest with you. So yeah, just really like that one. Pretty standard trope, zombie infections and stuff, but really well written, and it was a joy to read. So thoughts, feelings, anything else you want to say in the comment section below the video, and as ever, I will do my best to join in the conversation. Now I need a little bit of a break. Back again tomorrow night on the other channel with a podcast episode. Till then, my dear friends, enjoy and sleep well. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.